The desert night was colder than usual. I had spent the entire evening alone outside my small research station, staring at the endless sky above the Sahara. The stars looked sharper here than anywhere else on Earth, like tiny needles piercing the darkness. Most people would have called my job boring, but for me, it was everything. My name is Adrian Cole, and I worked as a deep space signal analyst. My job was simple: listen to the universe and hope it whispered something back.
For 15 years, it hadn't. Until that night.
The signal came at exactly 2:17 a.m. At first, it looked like static, just another meaningless burst of cosmic noise. But then the pattern emerged. Repeating pulses. Precise intervals. Too perfect to be natural. My heart nearly stopped. "Please don't be a malfunction," I muttered. I ran the decoding software. The signal translated slowly, symbol by symbol, forming a pattern I had never seen before. Coordinates. Not in space. On Earth. They pointed to a location less than 10 kilometers from my station, deep in the desert where nothing existed except dunes and silence. My instincts told me to call headquarters. But curiosity is a powerful thing. Within 20 minutes, I was driving across the sand in my rover, guided by the coordinates glowing on my tablet. The desert was silent. Then the sky lit up. At first I thought it was lightning, but lightning doesn't move like that. A streak of silver light tore across the sky and plunged toward the ground beyond the dunes. I slammed the brakes. "Okay," I whispered. "That's definitely not normal." The impact site was only a few hundred meters away. As I climbed the nearest dune, my breath caught in my throat. A spacecraft lay half buried in the sand. It wasn't enormous like in the movies. In fact, it was surprisingly sleek, about the size of a bus, with smooth metallic surfaces that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Smoke drifted from its side. One of the doors was open, and someone was crawling out. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, it was a woman. She stumbled down the ramp and collapsed into the sand. I ran toward her without thinking. "Hey, can you hear me?" I shouted. When I reached her, I froze. She wasn't human. Her skin had a faint silver glow, and her hair, long and flowing, looked almost like strands of starlight. Her features were elegant, almost unreal, as if sculpted by an artist who had never seen imperfection. And her eyes, they were violet, not purple like makeup. True violet. Alien. She groaned softly, trying to push herself up. "Easy," I said quickly. "You're hurt." She looked at me with confusion, as if trying to understand what she was seeing. Then she suddenly grabbed my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Before I could react, she turned my palm upward, and then she froze. Her eyes widened. She stared at my hand like she had just seen a ghost. On the center of my palm was a strange birthmark, something I had lived with my entire life. A circular pattern with small lines spreading outward like rays. Doctors had always told me it was just a harmless skin mark, but the alien woman looked terrified. "No," she whispered. Then she leaned closer, her voice trembling. "It's you." I blinked. I'm Adrian." She shook her head slowly. "You carry the star mark." "The what?" Her grip tightened around my hand. "The sign of the returner." I had no idea what she was talking about. "Look," I said carefully, "I think you hit your head in that crash." But she was staring at me with a mixture of disbelief and relief. "You're real," she murmured. Then she suddenly swayed and collapsed into my arms. It took me nearly an hour to drag her back to my research station. She was lighter than I expected. Her skin felt warm, almost glowing faintly in the dark. I laid her on the small medical bed inside the station and checked for injuries. A few burns, some bruising, but nothing life-threatening. Still, she was unconscious. And she was definitely not human. I paced around the room, running my hands through my hair. "Okay, Adrian," I muttered. "You just found an alien princess in the desert." Actually, she had called herself nothing yet. But somehow I knew. About 30 minutes later, she stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked around the room with quiet curiosity before her gaze settled on me. "You brought me here," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Yeah," I replied. "You crashed." She sat up carefully. "My ship." Still in the sand. She nodded slowly. Then her eyes dropped to my hand again. "The mark," she whispered. I raised my palm. "You mean this thing?" She leaned forward and touched it gently. The moment her fingers brushed my skin, something strange happened. The mark glowed. Not brightly. Just a faint golden shimmer. Both of us froze. "Okay," I said slowly. "That has never happened before." Her expression changed. Not fear. Recognition. "You are the one from the prophecy." "Great," I sighed. "Another prophecy." She gave me a confused look. "You don't know?"
No, I said.
"I really don't." She studied my face carefully. "My name is Princess Elora of the Celestari Empire." I nodded slowly. "Okay. Alien princess."
Sure.
"Why not?" She continued. "For thousands of years, our people have guarded an ancient legend. It says that one day, the star mark will return, carried by a being not born among us." I pointed at myself. "You mean me?" "Yes." "That seems unlikely." She shook her head. "When I touched your hand, the mark awakened. That only happens when the prophecy is true." I leaned back in my chair. "So, let me guess. I'm supposed to save the galaxy or something?" Her silence told me everything. "Oh no," I groaned. "You're serious?" "Yes," she said softly. I stared at the ceiling. "Of course I am." Over the next several hours, Elora told me the story. Thousands of years ago, her empire ruled hundreds of star systems. But then a powerful enemy appeared. A species known as the Void Dominion. They consumed entire worlds, wiping out civilizations and turning planets into lifeless husks. The Celestari fought them for centuries, but eventually they were pushed to the brink of extinction. Before the final battle, the Empire's ancient seers created a prophecy. A human from a distant world would one day carry the star mark, and that person would possess the key to defeating the Dominion. "That sounds incredibly convenient," I said. Elora didn't smile. "My ship was attacked while I was searching for the marked one." "You were looking for me?" "Yes." "And you somehow ended up crashing 10 kilometers from my house." She looked thoughtful. "The mark guided me." I sighed. "Fantastic." Then something occurred to me. "Wait, if your enemies were chasing you," her expression darkened. "They may already be on their way." As if on cue, the station's alarm system started screaming. I rushed to the window. 3 black shapes were descending from the clouds. Ships. Not human. "Those would be the Void Dominion," Elora said quietly. My stomach dropped. "You're kidding." The ships landed beyond the dunes. Moments later, figures began emerging.
Tall.
Armored. And terrifying. Elora stood beside me. "They're searching for the mark." I swallowed. "And if they find me, they will kill you." I grabbed my jacket. "Well then," I said, "let's not let that happen." We ran toward the wrecked spacecraft. Energy blasts lit up the desert behind us. The Dominion soldiers were fast. Too fast. One of the blasts struck the sand just meters away, throwing us to the ground. Elora pulled me up. Inside the ship, we scrambled through the open hatch. The interior lights flickered weakly. Can it still fly?
I asked.
Barely. She rushed to the controls while I sealed the door. Outside, the soldiers were approaching. Any time now would be great, I shouted. The engines roared. The ship lifted just as the first enemy reached it. Energy blasts slammed against the hull as we shot into the sky. I collapsed into the seat beside her. That was insane. Elora glanced at me. It's only the beginning. The mark on my palm glowed again. Stronger this time. A strange warmth spread through my arm. What's happening? I asked. She stared at the glowing symbol. The mark is activating. For what? Her voice dropped to a whisper. To unlock the weapon that ended the last Dominion War. I blinked. You mean there's a galaxy-destroying weapon somewhere that only I can activate? Yes. I laughed nervously. Of course there is. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Elora looked at me with quiet certainty. We're going to save the galaxy. I stared at my glowing hand, then at the endless stars outside the window. And somehow, for the first time in my life, I believed her.